And this week you're going to be doing your quiz for us, and part 3 of the quiz gets you to look at an unseen poem, linking to the things you've been doing in school. So the poem I've chosen for you is a poem called Hook Roosting by Ted Hughes, and it literally is, on many levels, about a great predator, the hawk. So let's have a little think about what makes a hawk a perfect predator. Got some sort of fun facts for you. The hawk has very sharp talons and a beak for holding and tearing their prey, so they're physically created to be a great predator. They have excellent eyesight, 8 times better than humans, so that they can see and move towards their prey really fast. They're highly intelligent, apparently, on the avian IQ scale, so they're the thinking man or woman's bird. They're known for their speed. They can dive at 150 miles an hour. They can catch prey both on the air and on ground, so they're incredibly versatile. And they're an opportunist hunter. They're very flexible in their hunting routine, so they'll hunt any time if they need to catch their prey. So let's have a little read of the poem. And something I would be thinking about as you're listening along is what suggests the power of the hawk. I sit in the top of the wood, my eyes closed, in action. No falsifying dream between my hooked head and hooked feet, or in sleep rehearse perfect kills and eat. The convenience of the high trees, the air's buoyancy and the sun's ray are advantage to me, and the earth's face upward for my inspection. My feet are locked upon the rough bark. It took the whole of creation to produce my foot, my each feather. Now I hold creation in my foot, or fly up and revolve it all slowly. I kill where I please because it is all mine. There is no sophistry in my body. My manners are tearing off heads, the allotment of death. For the one path of my flight is direct through the bones of the living. No arguments assert my right. The sun is behind me. Nothing has changed since I began. My eye has permitted no change. I am going to keep things like this. So as I was looking at this with you, something that makes me feel that the poem is suggesting the power of the hawk is the voice of the poem, for a start, because it's all told through the hawk's perspective. This is a monologue capturing the hawk's voice, I sit. So immediately the hawk's being empowered as the voice of the poem. And then you're being given this perspective. And this hawk seems perfectly powerful and perfectly confident in their ability to kill. Even in their rest moments, even when they're sort of resting or roosting, they are rehearsing their perfect kills. They're created to be constantly on the alert, constantly ready to be a hunter. And everything around them seems to be created to help them. So the hawk talks about the convenience of the high trees, the air's buoyancy, the sun's rays. They're all of advantage to me. And from that perspective, it suggests that the hawk thinks that the world is just created around them to make everything work for them so that they can hunt, even with the earth's face upward for my inspection. The hawk seems to almost deify itself as this godlike creature, and everything is kind of circling around them. It talks about having the whole of creation being used to create their foot, their feathers. So much effort was put into creating this perfect creature. But now I hold creation in my foot. There's almost a reversal of the power there. They've taken over the power from their creator. Again, this idea of being able to revolve the world around slowly suggests an immense kind of godlike power. And I kill where I please because it is all mine, just reinforces that point. Then the real violence comes into the poem with language like tearing off heads, allotment of death and bones, they go through the bones of the living. There's a real suggestion that this is a violent form of power, but not one that the hawk suggests any sort of sense of remorse over, and they feel they need to make no argument in order to assert their right to kill. They just do. And they don't have to sort of use any false argument, which is what sophistry means. They can just do as they please because they are that powerful. And this kind of comes across with the line, the sun is behind me, as if almost the planets are aligned behind them to allow them to be what they are. At the very end of this poem, there's a strong declarative, I'm going to keep things like this, as if they have the power to choose how the world should be. And of course, as predator, the prey have no power, so they have no voice in this poem. Tricky words. Now, one thing I would suggest, if you're doing an unseen poem in an exam, don't get too hung up on any words that you find tricky. Just try to look for the big meaning of the poem, the big ideas. And if some of the words just sort of confuse you or you're not quite sure what they mean, try and see if you can just kind of guess or skim over them a little bit and find bits that you really do understand. But a couple of things in here might be falsifying dream, which might just be a misleading dream. So they don't need to mislead. They're just very focused on the reality of their position. And this idea again of sophistry that I talked about earlier, I have no sophistry in my body. It just means that they don't need to use clever or false arguments to deceive you. So they have no deception in them. They just simply are what they are, and that is a killing machine. They don't need to try and pretend otherwise. So how does the poem present the power of the hawk? Well, the monologue, the hawk's perspective and voice certainly captures this idea of power because it's from their point of view. Hughes describes the confident resourcefulness of the predator. So the whole confidence of the voice just suggests that they're powerful. The bird deifies itself. It's become more powerful than creation. Now I hold creation in my foot, revolve it all slowly. And deifies just means it's a form of imagery that gives them godlike qualities. The violence of the language and imagery captures the dangerous power of the predator, tearing off heads, allotment of death, bones. The hawk is personified. It's kind of given a human dignity and a human thinking process with language that we might consider, sophistry, having an argument would be something we would definitely think about when it comes to humans and society, not an animal. So it's kind of risen up and given human qualities, which suggests it's even more powerful. And it doesn't need to debate their point. They just kill. And that sort of sense of kind of intent maybe gives it, again, this kind of strong sense of power. And as we said, the end line, that choosing to be able to keep things as they are, the refusal to give the prey the voice to change anything, the sun is behind me, is a really powerful declarative of its strength. So does this poem have any deeper meaning, or is it just about a beautifully predatory animal? Well, on one level, I think it does show a fascination with the power of nature, and Ted Hughes writes a lot about animals and about nature, so he clearly does have a fascination with that sort of thing. But on another level, the personification of the hawk does give it human qualities, which may allow you to make links to similarly human characters. So could the hawk symbolise the powerful in society, their ability to rip the heads off of the less powerful, perhaps? Certainly, there's a violence, there's a power, there's killing, there's lack of remorse. The hawk shares the qualities of a serial killer, perhaps, or a tyrant or a dictator, someone who holds life and death in the palm of their hands, perhaps. So when I read this poem, when I think about this poem, I often think serial killer, and it certainly does have that sort of approach to life. So very narcissistic, only really thinking of themselves as the centre of the universe. And that certainly comes across for me. So if you wanted to read it on a deeper level, and when it was taught a few years ago, it was actually on the old GCSE specification, it was actually taught under conflict and power. So it certainly does share some of those ideas. I hope that's of help to you. Thank you very much, Year 10.